Hey,
I used
Fleeters.
to be a
Hey, Fleeters, my name is Eric Tate. Thanks so much for joining us for yet another Fleet stream. I am so excited to introduce you to my good buddy. I know him as Logan South. He has been all over the place, but you know him as Captain Vlad from the original series. Please welcome Logan South. Logan, how you doing, buddy?
I'm good. I'm good. I inadvertently just proved that I am a finger guns bisexual, but about that.
I love that we're just gonna go right off the bat and talk about how you are a finger guns bisexual. I'm not quite the finger guns bisexual, but I do appreciate how you have turned that into a real thing, which is great.
Well, it all started back on Sonnet. That
Yeah,
was my trademark.
it really was your trademark. I did not expect, the Vlad that you portrayed had so much of a rich character compared to the Vlad in the book, because at no point in the book did Vlad ever finger guns, but you added that, and I feel like I remembered in the book now because of that.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of people who remember it slightly differently. I can't for the life of me figure out why that is. I thought I was very clear with it on why I was doing it. It was to stand, as my own,
Hmm.
because I didn't want to be just another dreary vampire joke. It
Yeah.
seemed like the wrong way to go with my life. So I instead became a finger guns vampire joke.
The finger guns vampire. So, but the thing is like there was that one scene where you had cybernetic guns installed in the fingers, or I say you,
Yeah,
it was Vlad, and so it
yeah,
was like it
no,
was very much this thing. But then like that one time, Vlad did use that to get the upper hand and do a dramatic escape.
we did. I wish that they were given a different name though. I don't think finger blasters was the way to go.
I agree. Finger
I feel
blasters was
like
not. I mean, because mostly because they didn't shoot energy weapons. I mean, if they had been energy weapons, that
right.
would have been great. But they each shot projectiles, so they were definitely like
Yeah,
a finger projectile.
it felt like something that we just could never market,
Hmm.
really. Like, and I wonder why. I wonder why that didn't sell in the toy aisle.
No, no, it didn't. Well, let's start from the very beginning. How did you get involved with Fleet? I mean, presumably there was an audition, but are you having a drink tonight? As am I, sir. Cheers. It's good to
Yes,
see you
absolutely.
again after all these years.
Scotch, also Scotch.
Absolutely. Yep.
All right, yeah, you are my kind of man right there.
Mm,
Look at that. Scotch and a beard, yes,
mm.
sir. Um,
So how did you get involved?
how did I get involved?
Yes,
Oh yeah,
we all
so
know that Vlad was an important vampiric vampirier. He was like not just superior, but vampirior captain from the books. And so when they came into the show, there was a lot of speculation as to who would end up playing Vlad, and they ultimately ended up with you. But how was
yeah.
the process to get you there?
So yeah, there was an audition that I went on way back when that I wasn't actually supposed to be able to get into because they were casting for an adult role, not an adult role, but they were casting an adult for a role on Satnam. And I was underage at the time,
Mm.
but I changed my name on all of my paperwork and my information, and I submitted myself anyway. And I got called in. I did the read. It probably took, I don't know, almost a year before like I even had the confirmation like that I was going to do it. I think they were a little confused as to whether or not they were even going to put the character in the show. And so then I get the confirmation. They're like, "Yeah, we want you for this role. Come in. Let's do this. Let's do that." And by the time that they had called me in, somebody goes, "Hey, I saw this on." Sorry, somebody's trying to
Oh,
call me, and I don't like that.
sorry.
Shouldn't
Yeah,
do
let's jump back a little bit. That you said
But so yeah,
they
so
saw
they
that
called
you
me.
they saw something on your sheet. Was it presumably your real birth date or?
Yeah, they caught it, figured it out. Yeah, they figured it out, and they were like, "Oh, so we thought that you were this age, but you're really this age." And I was like, "Well, yeah, but I'm 18 now." They're like, "What?" I was like, "Yeah, I just turned 18."
Are you telling me that
So
you Captain
they're
America'd
like,
yourself into the role of Vlad?
"Yeah, yeah, yeah." That is 100% what I did. Yeah.
That's That's
Yeah, I
amazing.
lied my ass off. Yeah, no, they thought I was 23, I think. I always like I made it easier for them when we talk about it on set and joke about it. I was like, "Oh yeah, no, they thought I was 18. I lied by like a day." No, they thought I was like 23, 24,
Hmm.
and I absolutely wasn't. But so when I went to continue from that and I started playing the role, I hammed it up even more than I did in my original audition.
Hmm.
And so everyone thought that I was a much older guy than I was, and they're like because we had Gary and we had a few other kids on set who were just they were child actors, but they didn't realize that they weren't so much younger than me at the time. So we're just running around doing these things. Sorry, I keep
it's it's okay. No, like I mean, let's be honest. Your time as Vlad made you just insanely famous, and so fans are constantly trying to get in touch with you. And I know a number of them are always like they've figured out like sort of your burner accounts to try and message you because they want to hear more about you know the big plan that Vlad was going to enact in the end of season 6, but we never got to see that because we got
never
left
got
on a
there. I
cliffhanger.
got
Yeah.
killed so early that all these plans that they had were just out the window,
Yeah.
and like they thought that I was going to get resurrected again. That
Hmm.
was the big thing. Was it's like, oh well, Vlad always comes back, and then he didn't, and so like it just dangled
Yeah.
into the wind.
The
So, but
the
I've had people come to my house. I've had stalkers in the past.
that's
Yeah.
got to be
They,
scary.
oh yeah, yeah, and it's not just from that. I went on to do some other vampire related genre stuff
Hmm.
after, and so but I think there was a lot of people, still a lot of people that couldn't really tell fact from fiction,
Hmm.
and so I have had people stop me in the street and they're like, how are you going to come back? How are you going to do it?
Yeah, it's
I was like, I don't know. I didn't write it, so
well, they never really answered
it could have.
they never answered the question of like how you resurrect the dead. Because it's different from like, when Vlad came back beforehand, it was just like because he's a vampire, but he's not mortally wounded, because how do you mortally wound a vampire? But when Vlad was killed, the resurrection of a being that is already dead, because Vlad as a vampire is different from Vlad prior to his vampirism.
Right, right. And so I think the way that they did it, and I can't remember if it was ever really written into it, was the fact that I was killed by my own saber
Hmm.
had something to do with like the permanence of that death, and like Hellman's like betrayal of me and using this thing that it was so intrinsically tied to the character. We never went and said directly like, oh, it is imbued with the ability to do that, blah blah blah, whatever. But I think that was their rationale. And they're like, no, he was killed with that. That's it. He's
Hmm.
dead. He's gone. He's not coming back. But then the fans, they'd really speculate and they go, oh no, but there's all these ways. And that's when they started like tearing
Yeah.
apart the like arcane knowledge and all this. And people will ask me questions that I have no idea how to answer. They're like, well, but in season so and so, wasn't there an arcanum device that did whatever? I'm like, I have no idea. I didn't even read the books before getting on this show. I got no clue.
I gotta say, your death scene was amazing, particularly because Hellman takes your saber from you and rams it through, and then he leans in and he says, "Have a taste of your own fang, Vlad." And then your response to that just sent chills through me. Would you mind like we got a few viewers here who are big Vlad fans. Would you mind giving them a little bit
And
of the
it's been a
response?
while since I've done the corny face. But I think it was something like the Necronauts will never die.
Oh,
Sorry, I might have overhammed it. But,
no,
it was
I just
that.
all over me, all the whole body, I got feels in the entire body there.
I honestly, I first when I first delivered the line, when and I was like, I was realizing like this was it, like this was the last thing. I tried to go like really like serious actor,
Hmm.
and I tried to be very soft with it and very soft spoken and do that, and then so I run the line like that the first 2-3 times, And then finally the AD comes up and he's like, "Oh, hey, yeah, no, you're doing great. Hey, can I talk to you for a second?" I was like, "Yeah, sure." He goes, we're not liking that." I was like, "What do you mean?" He goes, come on. It's you. You've got to,
Yeah.
right? You got, he's sitting here, he's jerking my chain. He's like, "You got to cheese it up. Like, we're not ending this take until the cheese is on the sandwich."
I mean, there was a saying on set where people were like, "You go Vlad or you go home."
Yep. So, I mean, I stopped hearing that, many years ago, before the show was even off the air. No, that was it. That was my last day. I didn't get to hear that until just now. Yeah.
It's so good reliving these memories. But one of my
bittersweet is what it is. It's totally bittersweet. It's putting that taste in my mouth, and now I don't know if I want another taste, or if I just want to break the whole candy bar. Which one should I announce like a reboot? I'm kidding. I have no power to do that. That's not that. No, the hands. You got so what? No, I can't do that.
Well, I mean, I know a lot of people would like a reboot, and I'm just saying that, like, if there's anyone who's going to be a part of it, it is you. And I'm like, are you Andrew Garfielding me right now? Is that what
Star Wars? Like the Return of Vlad.
Yeah.
Return of Vlad, like Return of the Jedi. We can do that. Or Revenge of Vlad. We'll do the original Star Wars title.
And just like the opening scene is like it's literally just your death scene, but then like your saber comes back through Hellman's chest, and then the camera pans back further, and it's you like you've been dead resurrected and
the whole time.
Oh yeah. Oh no.
No, but I honestly, I gotta say, I liked the way they sent me off. It was pretty. The kind of just floating through the clouds, and it was kind of a way that they hadn't really showed anyone die before. Because usually, if you fell off the ship, you fell off the ship.
Yeah.
And it was just that. I just kind of like sailed, floated.
Yeah.
And I've heard fans about it. They're like, "Well, how did that happen?" Because gravity. And then I was like, "Fuck gravity, blow it up."
No.
And
no, I mean it was continuing to pay tribute to the fact that vampire physiology was very different from the rest of from like human physiology and the way the rest of it all went down. And so a vampire wouldn't just fall even after death. The powers are eternal.
Yeah, I thought it was a perfect send off. I've had a lot of people argue with me about one thing though, and I'm going to make a point and say no. They ask me, like, fans will come up occasionally and they'll be like, "Hey, so like what was the term on Buffy? You were dusted, right? Like,
yeah.
So when you died, like you're like ashes spread into the wind." And I was like, "No, that was just a cloud. I didn't turn into anything. That was a cloud. The body is definitely still there in my head, at least. You know, unless what was on my script notes was wrong, it was Vlad disappears into the clouds."
I mean, that's the way I remember it in the script notes. I mean, and when you go back and watch these scenes, because if you go back on YouTube and look for Vlad's death scene, you can find it. People post. I mean, at least. Maybe it demonetizes their channel, and maybe why that some people can't find it occasionally. But you can see Vlad's death scene. He clearly goes into the cloud. Anybody remembering different is just wrong, as far as I'm concerned.
And it would be really weird because we never had any of the other vampires. Not that there were a whole lot, but we never had any of them die by like kind of dusting and like fluffing off. Like it was like, "Oh, you're dead," and then the body drops.
Yeah.
So it would be weird for me to be the first one that's like, "Oh yeah, special effects."
Yeah, I just don't understand. I don't understand why people keep insisting on applying the vampire physics of Buffy to the vampire physics of Sotnov, because there are differences.
I think because of the overlap. I think that so back in the day, like they were airing at around the same time. I don't remember if it was the original air dates or like being picked up later on what do you call it? Anyway.
Yeah.
So but yeah, I remember that during a while on like UPN or something, there was like, "Oh, let's watch a rerun of Buffy," and now a rerun of Sotnov, something like that.
Yeah.
So I think that's why. I think that when people watch two shows back to back, they start blending them in their own head.
Yeah.
You know, like Charmed in Buffy back in the day. Like those originally aired together, like on the same format. And so people are like, "Oh my god, the universes have definitely got to be like together." No, that wasn't the thing.
No, I get it because I mean I watched a little bit of the animated series of Ships of the Northern Fleet, and it was airing back to back. Like it was like the block that I would see it on, at least where I was living at the time, was it would be Dragon Ball Z, the Fleet animated series, and then it would be Cowboy Bebop. And I frequently would like, even though the animation styles were so different, I would pull chunks from one and put it into the other, even though like clearly that never happened. It's just funny how human memory is.
Sure.
Let's talk a little bit about like
Yeah, it's just the way your kid gets into it, you know, and you're like kid brain goes, yeah, like all these things are my things, and they're
Yeah.
all cool.
Let's talk a little bit about how what was it that made you keep hiding on set so frequently? Because I remember we found one of your secret hammocks that you were taking a nap in, but like when did that start when you would like hide on set? Because you had a trailer.
I did. Well, it was specifically because I was notorious for not wanting to immediately like just run in line, first line, this, that, and the other, because I wanted to be frustrating. I specifically wanted anytime that like we're about to do a scene, I wanted everyone who I was in the scene with to be frustrated by me because that's the way that I thought the scene was going to play. We did one like towards the beginning. I want to say it was like the first couple of scenes that we did where I was just like, "Hi, I'm Logan. Nice to meet you. Blah blah blah. I'm playing Captain Vlad. Blah blah." And so I'm doing the scene, and I'm hearing this just kind of like too friendly, too normal tone coming out of my coworkers' mouths in relation to Vlad, or just kind of like treating me like I had always been there. It was just like, oh, here's a guy, he's doing a scene, who knows how long he'll be here. He could be the villain of the week, and that's it, right?
Yeah.
So I was like, no, I'm going to change that, and I'm going to do it this way. I'm going to be impossible to find every day, but I'm always going to be right there already. I'm already going to be on set. I'm going to be 5 feet from them the whole time, and they won't know until they know. So it's not that I'm late. It's not that I wasn't on time. I was right there. They just couldn't find me. And they're like, well, why weren't you in your trailer? I'm like, because I was on set.
And there was no lying either. Like you actually were on set, which was amazing. I loved how you. I mean, one of my favorite things about you personally is your memory, and that because like you were like hiding like inside set pieces, you could hear everything that would happen, and you would still participate in conversations as though you had been a part of the conversation, even though you just heard it through a wall.
There was a day when Patrick and Katie were so annoyed that I wasn't there yet.
Yeah.
That I hear Katie kind of like once they started to get the gag, they knew how to summon the genie was the thing. So Katie is just sitting there. She's like, well, can't find Logan again. I guess we should just go ahead and read these lines. And so she starts reading them out loud, and he starts reading Glurp's lines, and I come and I kick through the door for my line and just start going into it from a completely different location from where I was supposed to enter, and just start yelling at the both of them. And the look of shock and awe and surprise.
I remember like Patrick was so surprised that like we weren't sure whether or not he had wet the prosthetics. Like it was he refused to tell us, and like I know he's like made of very strong stuff, so he probably didn't. But there's like a little part of me that makes you like would be happy if you made him pee just a little bit in just surprise.
I have no doubt that I did. Is how I remember it. So I know that happened, and I will stick to that to my dying breath.
When you were on Fleet, you formed this really wonderful relationship with the rest of the cast, and I'm wondering,
yeah.
I'm wondering if you have any sort of like stories from because primarily when like when you all did the panels at like the height of like Fleet fandom, was there anything that like you and Katie or you and Patrick did at like some of the con appearances you were making?
it was really at first it was very weird for me because I didn't understand why I was at a convention. Like I
Yeah.
understood why everyone else was at a convention. I
Hmm.
understood why like my heroes and like I'm a huge nerd. I'm a Marvel guy. I'm a
Yeah.
DC guy. I love comic books. I love movies and TV. And like I understood why all these other things were there. I didn't understand why my goofy vampire character from a Sky Pirate show was there. I didn't connect those dots yet. So basically, a lot of it was me just awkwardly fumbling through
Sort of
the
dealing with an
same
imposter
like
syndrome type thing.
oh 100%, yeah, the same kind of thing that I had on set where
Hmm.
I'm trying to be very charming and charismatic and witty and funny and annoying even did not exist at those cons. I was terrified because I was like, oh yeah, no one cares about this guy. I was like, I'm gonna hang out over here. I'll answer the questions when they come to me. And so the first couple of times I just kind of did that until all of a sudden it was Gary, who he comes up to me one day at the bar and he goes, dude, I'm just a guy in a mask. You get to run around with a cape and fangs and cloaks and all this stuff.
Yeah.
I'm over here and I'm trying to determine which tentacle is going to choke me today. You got to go out there and you got to really enjoy it.
Oh,
And you got to understand that they enjoy you. And I was like, you know what? You've touched me here. We are best friends forever. And that is why I say Glurp life forever. And anybody who has a problem with Glurp has a problem with me.
I love that. Do you think that if you were like, let's say you started getting invited to panels again, right? And if you decided to go back to the panels, because I know that that's something that all of the actors from the original series have to make that decision as to like whether or not they want to go back and relive that. Because I know some people don't relive the sort of like previous battles. But if you did, do you think that in order to sort of put yourself back in that mindset, you would put the fangs back on and the cloaks?
I still have them.
What?
Like,
You still have the fangs and the cloaks?
oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I've got the original ones from the show, and I'll tell you a secret that nobody knows.
Okay. Oh, this is uh buckle up, guys. We got an exclusive here. What I want the secret.
So after my first season, it was no longer props making my fangs. It was me. I was making my own fangs.
Oh my god, really?
I got so upset that no one could just get this right look. Like, and I love vampires, and I thought, what a boon to play one.
That's
So
amazing.
I started creating my own fangs, just sitting in the back of like a tiny little bathroom somewhere and just carving them out. And no one noticed except for the props guy.
Yeah.
And he's like, I don't even know where he's getting these. What's going on? And like finally they picked up on it. They're like, are you buying these from somewhere else? Like we can't afford that on the studio budget. I was like, no, I made them myself. They fit better. They feel better.
That's
They're
astonishing.
like, well, they look better, so you're gonna wear them, right? Like, you keep doing that? And I was like, yeah. They were like, well, okay, we'll send you a check for props on your own things. I was
Mhm.
like, no, it's fine. They're mine, and I'm taking them with me when I leave.
Oh, I love
You
that.
don't put that out.
What was your
So yeah,
favorite
that was my
What was your favorite cloak to wear? Because one of the things I love about Vlad is not just that he's this goofy vampire character, and even though he was goofy, there was like some of that was like a whimsy that I feel like Vlad's character was playing to like throw people off guard because he's just like he's this like amazing statuesque creature of the sky, and yet he's like
right.
throwing you off with the goofiness. But the
I
costuming
decided that
was amazing.
like early on, I was gonna play him like a raven,
Hmm.
like a big like badass bird who's just constantly puffing his chest out and squawking at everybody. That's what I
Oh,
wanted to be. So yeah, no. But my favorite cloak, it's that same one that I think it was a couple of these videos ago. I showed. I've still got it somewhere. It's buried now. But
oh yeah.
yeah, no,
I'm not
it's
gonna expect you to get it out or anything like that. Is it?
the black and silver with the red lining. That like
Oh man. That was, I mean, was that like sort of like Vlad's like dress uniform when he was going to be like holding Captain's mess?
Yeah, yeah. That was the one that like anytime there was a scene of him like making an important speech,
Mm-hmm.
like that was the one in it. Like, if he takes a crew hostage, if he does this, if he does that, if it's any
Mm-hmm.
grandiose moments, the first thing that happens is he's in the room just pulling that thing on. That's the first step. It's the armor. It's the
Mm-hmm.
For him that's armor. For anybody else, it's like they're wearing actual armor or
Yeah.
this or that. For him, that cloak, that jacket, that's the armor.
It's like
That's
an emotional armor that he could wear
Yeah, and
to.
it was for me too.
Mhm.
Like it took me, it put me in that headspace. I'm like, yes, I am that big beautiful bird. These are my wings right here. And it allowed me to fly.
I'd never heard Vlad described as like a big beautiful bird before, but like it makes so much sense when you start to like sort of compare not only like the way that you stood, but also the way you periodically like barked at people with like the very sudden, very loud, which didn't sort of match with the rest of like what Vlad was doing, and it was
Right.
so jarring that
And I wanted to appear different than anybody else from the Necronauts.
yeah,
Anybody who was a vampire or had any of that kind of spooky thing.
it's
Because
so effective.
everybody they're very snarly. Was the thing, and I didn't want to be snarly. I wanted to be that wide-eyed, just cocky, stiff neck, upper, just like
Oh,
just there.
yeah,
Just
like
I wanted that image.
a statue suddenly coming to life.
Right. A statue suddenly coming to life and screaming at you. Just no snarling, no barking, no growling, just a direct command from across the field, do the thing, and then flies off. That's what I wanted.
What? So did you learn to sail in any of the preparations for this? Because I know Vlad was a very active captain, which was part of the reason that he was so effective in many of the
I
battles that he was a part of. But I know that you did a lot of
I
your own
did not.
stunts.
I did a lot of my own stunts. I did not, however, learn to sail. What I did was I watched every pirate movie that I could get my hands on
Okay.
to see the way people were running about a ship,
Hmm.
how they would climb up on this or pull on that. And I just imitated all of that. That's all I did. Like there was no actual ship mechanic understanding at all. It was all total bullshit.
Really?
Just, oh yeah. No,
Even
I
when you were swinging to board a ship?
yeah, yeah. No, it was just I would. I remember specifically it was that Gina Davis movie, the pirate movie that she was in back forever ago.
Hmm.
I watched that from like a young age, and I remember watching that again, like in my trailer, and obsessing on like the way that like she would swing across this or the cockiness of the other guy. I can't remember his name. I can't even remember the name
Yeah.
of the movie. But so I would watch these scenes on repeat, and I'm like, that's it. That's the way I'm going to do that. Oh, I've got to climb out of a window. Well, let's make sure that I'm braced and tickling along the sides of it with my fingers.
Oh,
Oh,
man.
well, we're going to do this thing, this jump to this other ship. I got to make sure to really like drastically take that into the line thing with the rope and swing my body off into it. So yeah, but no, as far as knowing how to sail, not a chance. No, I'd drown for sure.
That's
100%.
that's so wild. I love that you were taking cues from these other films though, while doing your own stunts, which was just amazing to me because they were able to get such like wonderful like close-ups of you like swinging onto a ship and like in one shot you would land and then you would do that classic Vlad face and shout at the as your crew was taking over this other ship. It was so good.
Yeah, I can't even really take credit for it because the truth is, for two reasons, it was somebody else's idea.
What?
So there was an episode where we had a guest starring role that a lot of people might not remember because he looked very different at the time. Mr. Mark Hamill came on the show,
No way.
and Oh yeah, no, I don't even remember who he was credited as. I think they were kind of doing this as a like a joke. It was like a nod to because Hook had come out around this time, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I don't know if you're familiar with Hook, but there was a scene where they throw this guy in a boo box,
Mm-hmm.
right? And they throw scorpions on him and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Well, so that guy was oh, I'm sorry, what's her name? I dropped it out of my head. The wonderful woman who played Cruella de Vil. Uh,
In the
Glenn Close.
yeah, okay, yes. So there's a new
That
Cruella, so
guy.
you're starting to you have to get specific now on like
Right,
which
right,
Cruella
right.
it is.
But so in that movie, the guy that they threw in the boo box was Glenn Close.
What?
And so
Okay. Yeah.
no, that's a real thing. You can look that up right
Yeah.
now. But so we had a similar moment
Mm-hmm.
with a prisoner that was played by Mark Hamill.
Oh man.
And so I'm ranting one day. I don't find out until later that it is Mark Hamill.
Oh, because he
But
was all
I'm
done up
talking
in the
about-
prosthetics and the makeup and
Yeah, yeah, facial hair, makeup, everything. And so I'm sitting there and I'm really like losing myself at one point. And I'm like, hey, yeah, no, I don't know how I'm gonna do the scene. I don't know how I'm gonna get from marker A to B, whatever. Like, and I'm having a panic moment. And this guy, he just kind of turns over to me. He goes, hey kid, don't think about it like that. Just did you like the Star Wars movies? And I said, yeah. He goes, all right, so you remember all the swinging Luke does and all that? He's just so calm, he's so cool, right? Just you gotta just think of it as your destiny and just kind of let it happen. And if you need to, just watch that, those kind of things, or go to old pirate movies and just kind of let it dip, let it drop. And I'm just like, all right, yeah. And I couldn't get the Luke reference out of my head, so I went back and I watched Return of the Jedi.
Mhm.
And just the way he's swinging with Leia, like he had in the first movie and all that. I'm like, that's great. That's the piratey kind of swing. And then I find out later it's Mark Hamill giving this sage advice.
So you're having so A, you're in a scene where you have to like abuse Mark Hamill, but you don't realize it's Mark Hamill.
It's so much worse than that. I had to ignore Mark Hamill.
How do you ignore Mark Hamill? Well, I mean,
Well,
it probably
it's
helps
easy
if
when
you don't know
realize
it's
Mark
it.
Hamill. As it turns out, yeah. So I walked past him all day without saying a word because it's in the script. Ignore the dude in the prison cell. And then finally, this dude he opens up his mouth, has these just few glittering, gorgeous words. And I'm like, okay, thanks, random stranger. And I walk away. I think I found out a week later that was Mark Hamill. He was like friends with somebody on set, and they got him to come in and just do this little cameo.
I think my favorite thing about Mark Hamill is that as he has gotten older, he is I mean, and not even gotten older, but just his entire life, he's been like, I would like to play some insane, weird things. I was watching something else recently, and like midway through, I was like, oh my God, that's Mark Hamill, and I had no idea. Because he's willing to take these like crazy roles to do that. And I want to hear more stories from people of like not being on set with Mark Hamill, not realizing who it is, and then him giving some sage advice. Because it sounds like that really affected you, and that's why you went to these pirate movies, even though it was from a random stranger.
It really did. It was, just a couple words from a random stranger. And I got to tell you, I can't honestly remember how long it was until I realized it was Mark Hamill.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't remember how long he was actually on set. It could have been 2 days. It could have been 2 weeks. But because I was told to ignore the prisoner in the cell, I did every day.
I'm sure someone in the wiki can go back and figure out exactly how long Mark Hamill was on set and you were ignoring him. But that's so great.
That'll make me feel great. So
yeah, don't everybody bombard Logan with like reminding him exactly how long he was ignoring Mark Hamill. All right, let's get off of this because I can tell that this is clearly a painful memory of the time that
it is, but it's also one of my favorites because like, wow, I got to work with Mark Hamill.
Yeah, I mean, but you got to work with a lot of great people though. I mean, you got to work with Mandy Patinkin in that 3-episode arc.
Yeah, yeah. What was his name? Oh no, oopsie. And they're gonna kill me if I can't remember this name. Oh no. It was James Spader. Spader.
What?
Yeah, yeah. Spader. He popped in. What was that? It was he was playing. It was some sort of like uh
Was
customs agent or something. Like
oh, it's like a cameo,
basically,
like a cameo type deal where there was like where like
yeah.
Vlad
Yeah.
is trying to smuggle something.
But he was
What?
like really important. It
Mhm.
was it was kind of like who were the guys that did the like in like with real pirates, like
Mhm.
they were like checking the seas and creating the trade stuff. It was something like
Oh,
that. He was like
Like the
the
East
big
Indian
like
Trading Company type thing.
Indian trading company.
Yeah,
Thank you. Yeah, he was like one of those like wig wearing type of guys and
gotcha.
was really putting it.
Okay.
And that was yeah.
I was gonna say like I don't remember James Spader being on set for like an extended like long story arc, but I could totally see him just being there for like a quick cameo.
Yeah, I think he popped in a couple of times here and there because
Hmm.
there was never really too much to go through these guys. But when they did, it was like, hey, yeah, I can come in, and he just pop in, do the thing,
Hmm.
and yeah, a big powdery wig type of deal. I remember that. That was that was good. He never looked better,
Yeah.
in my opinion. So.
So can you tell the people watching a little bit more about Vlad's ship, because I feel like the architecture in Vlad's ship was very interesting, and I'm wondering if like sort of how you negotiated a little bit of it with with these magnificent cloaks of yours.
So for the first few episodes, we only kind of shot from a certain angle, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so they hadn't done all the like the digital work and the model work. I can't remember how
Yeah.
much was like physical models and how much was 3D, but I insisted on one thing that I got.
Mm-hmm.
And I said I want my sails to be made of red velvet.
Oh man.
And they agree, but reluctantly, because at first they're like, well, it's how are you gonna have red velvet sails? Like that's not strong enough to be a material. I was like, we're pirates on spaceships flying around with crazy swords and a talking parrot. I think we can figure it out. Just make it red and kind of fluffy, and I think it's gonna look great. And they said, oh well, we'll go back and talk to
Mm-hmm.
so and if they're okay with it. And I said okay. And then I came on to set the next day, and I had red sails on my ship. So
It's
yeah,
I what I love about that is how that stylistic choice ended up carrying over to the rest of Vlad's ship, in that it was different, because even though this is a a sky pirate steampunk show, Vlad's ship was very elegant in so many ways. Whereas like you looked at some of the Cogs folk, and their ships are kind of clunky, and the Necronauts, their most of their ships were sort of like pointy and scary looking, but they still had that sort of steampunk vibe. But Vlad's ship was so elegant. Was is sort of
yeah.
that's the word that keeps coming back to my mind every time I go back and look at a picture of his ship.
Well, I think the reason for that was, I mean, first of all, you had the books that were like very very detail oriented themselves, right? But then everything about that becomes how do you translate it into a film medium?
Hmm.
And so I think the constant thing that I just kept hearing was, and even though the character was named Vlad, and there's definitely a lot of like Dracula play there going on, they wanted it to be different than Dracula.
Hmm.
And so we had just come off the heels of Interview with a Vampire in
Hmm.
that kind of era,
Yeah,
right? And so I think the French thing was starting to become really ingrained in their heads. So
that
they're
makes a
like,
lot of
oh,
sense.
that's how we do it.
Hmm.
We're gonna make it very French stylized. We're gonna have a very like Louis the 14th kind of like vibe going on inside the ship. Very little like silver or gold trims. Black on red on black on red. I had the one bookshelf that was just all like red velvet shelves as well, kind of mirroring the outside of the ship. And the mast just or the am I saying that right? The mast. See, again,
Yeah.
not a ship guy. Don't know how to say it. The thing on the front. What is that?
Oh,
What do you call that?
the masthead. Yeah.
Masthead. Okay,
Yeah.
I was halfway there.
Yeah.
I had half of it. And so yeah, the masthead, that gorgeous masthead was
Hmm.
just like I thought it was like I honestly didn't know how they made it, because that wasn't 3D.
It,
That wasn't just put in.
no, that
That
was
was there
real.
on.
It was
Yeah.
that was constructed before I started
You would have more
working.
information on that than I would.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I do remember it being real, and I recall that it was some sort of mix between. They had like not paper mache, but they'd like plastered over cut foam. It was made long before I got there, and I remember like the it was so difficult to build and then paint because of the way it caught the light that like the rule was that if we had to move it around, there were always three people who moved it because you were never allowed to move it yourself because they broke the original one, and the guy who made it just like I think he almost cried because of how long it took him to make it.
Beautiful. It
Yeah.
was just this that woman was just whoa.
Hmm.
I was like that's my girlfriend was the running joke. Everybody asked about.
I do remember you often like you. I remember you would like need sort of like to look sort of longingly at something, and
Yeah.
occasionally you required us to place it like just out of frame, even like it, you would be in like you'd be on a scribe feathers ship, and you would just have it offset so you could look wistfully at it.
I think the reason that I like first had that in my head was I can't remember who said it, but it was I was going down like the some lines on like my ship and like Vlad's love for the ship and
Hmm.
blah blah blah, and somebody said something about, oh well, just think about it like an ex-lover, and I was
Hmm.
like, what do you mean? They're like, oh yeah, no, like if it's like if you had this ship because it belonged to someone that was really important to you, or a girlfriend or a wife or something, they're like, that could have been her ship. That could be her right there on the masthead. And I was like, okay, now I got my eye line. Now I know how I'm looking at this ship.
Is that why it seemed like Vlad cared about his ship so much more than the other captains? Because it seemed like some of the other captains just sort of dealt with their ships as like not really like, oh, it's just a method of conveyance, or oh, it's kind of like maybe
Yeah.
it's like just like it's just another boat, right? Whereas like Vlad like every time he touched like a railing, or like was at the wheel, or was working on the engine when the chief engineer like couldn't get something, and Vlad would come and sort of lay his
A
hand on
hundred
it.
percent. 100%. That's why every single time that I came out of the cabin,
Hmm.
I would just run my hands just slick down the staircase banisters, just all the way
Yeah.
down, and have that very like flourish type of like almost effeminate kind of way I'd
Hmm.
roll my hands about with it. And then there was the scene that I think this is why it confused some people. It
Hmm.
was something about like one of the crew like shot at someone, and instead of shooting them they shot the ship, and then I stabbed them for it.
Yes.
So that was the rationale, and at least my head, I'm assuming that the writers were
Hmm.
getting where I was going with everything. And so I just remember doing that scene so effortlessly because I'm like, of course, how dare you put a hole in my ship? That's my girl.
There
And
was a
just ran with that.
There was a fan theory that Vlad was sort of spiritually connected to his ship, but like more than just like, oh, he's in love with the ship, but actually like the ship shared a piece of his soul. And maybe that's
Right.
why the ship was able to do some of those maneuvers where it seemed like I always thought that Vlad was just telekinetic and he could control it, or maybe he'd figured out some sort of technology and like had like a secret wrist panel or something like that. But it always seemed like Vlad had a deeper connection to his ship that allowed him to make those just like crazy maneuvers that Hellman could
So
never accomplish.
if I was the one to choose, which
Hmm.
I am not, and I think that if anybody has a theory on it, then until it's written, I think their theory is right. And until the writers come back and they're like, "Hey, yeah, this is exactly what we meant to do." If you got a theory, that's the one. But for me, the way I believed it was, yeah, there was like an actual part of someone, like a soul or something, in that ship, ingrained in the wood, and not so much a telekinetic ability as a telepathic ability, a
Gotcha.
way to communicate with the ship and instruct it, tell it how to move, you know, kind of like sex.
I'm I just figured out how Logan South has sex. It's largely like this. I wonder if that relationship with his ship, that sort of that deeper connection, is why so many fans thought he was going to come back. Is that there wouldn't be so much a resurrection as they would be using the piece of Vlad's soul that is inside the ship to
So
reanimate him.
Again, if it was up to me, I would say hell to the motherfuck yes, because
Yeah.
Hellman took the ship. He
Ugh.
took the ship from me in that scene. So that means, like, if what is a better reason for revenge, really? Like,
I can't think of a better reason than than getting the ship that is also a piece of your soul and quite possibly your lover. I'm not certain that you ever did anything with that ship that would have been gotten us a PG-13 rating. But
right.
we had to stay PG because we were competing with Star Trek and they were PG because of sex and fear. Which is my favorite thing that happens on Netflix when you play Star Trek. But is that they always tell you why the rating is, and it doesn't matter what episode of Star Trek, it's always because of sex and fear. And of course, we were up against Star Trek. You're up against a big juggernaut like that.
I did it better for at least a few seasons.
I completely agree.
Maybe not past season 4 or anything, but I digress.
No, but I mean, we all know that there was
because I wasn't there after that point. That's all I was saying.
No,
I was just saying maybe the show wasn't as good without Vlad, but it's fine. I'm kidding. Everybody on the show is amazing. Always has been, always will be.
It did lose a little something when we didn't have you on set. That was I know I was saddened by it because I got to enjoy.
I know I lost a little something.
A paycheck?
Money.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the
I'm glad I'm glad after all these years we can still sort of anticipate where the jokes are going. I appreciate the single finger gun there.
That's the sad finger gun. When it's the double, when it's together, but it's just the one, then you know.
So
I think that was in the show too. I do. I think that was in the show too.
I don't mean to put you on the spot here, but there were rumors that you were working on a rock album at the time. It's during season 3.
Yes.
And
I can confirm that.
You were working on a rock album that you would be performing as Vlad.
That is 100% true.
It was okay. So the way I heard it was a rock opera.
No, so it was just a band that I had. It wasn't a rock opera though. There was a lot of stylization.
Okay, maybe that's where some of that's coming from.
And it's a little interesting because what it was, you may not remember, but back in the day, my name in the credits was not the same as what we have now, which is why we had some of the confusion coming up here.
Yes.
Because back then I was using Logan Murrig, which was one of my family names, for my stage.
Mm-hmm.
And so, when all of a sudden, we were doing the cast reunion and everything like that, I heard some fans going, "Well, that's not who played Vlad.
Yeah,
that wasn't his name." And I'm like, "Yeah, no, I changed it for the band that I was in."
You look different without the fangs, the makeup, and the wig.
It changes things for sure.
Yeah.
But so no, I changed my name legally because of the band that I was in, because I thought, wow, this sounds like a much cooler name.
Mm-hmm.
So I created a band called Dead South.
Mm-hmm.
And I was doing this Southern vampire rock. And I did that for, I don't know, about a year.
Mm-hmm.
And then the band fell apart. And then ironically, a year after, a new band with the same name came up, and they have now gotten really famous. And yeah, but so I changed my name to Logan South to be Logan South of Dead South.
Okay.
and then that went nowhere, and then someone else went somewhere with that name, the Dead South, and now
I can't
I
believe
just
that.
that.
Where's,
Yeah.
where, I mean, were any? I mean, is it someone else, or was it some of the original
No,
members
no,
of?
no, not at all. They are not connected to what we were doing at all. They are actually from I want to say Australia or New
Mhm.
Zealand. But yeah, I've heard their stuff. They're great. You can find them on Spotify and all that stuff. And I still get emails for them to this
Really?
day. Yeah, yeah, really, really. Yeah, I still get emails for them to this day because it's people looking for the band that exists.
Oh,
And then I'm
that's
like, no,
hysterical.
I'm the one that didn't get to exist, but I turned it into my company name.
Oh,
You
that's
know,
right. Because you throw well, I mean, because you throw amazing events.
I
You
did
know,
before the pandemic.
well,
Yes.
I
Once upon a time.
one of my favorite things about working on Fleet for the brief time that I worked with you was the cast parties that you threw were just amazing. There was
Where I caught the bug
y-
for sure.
yeah, I mean because you planned every one of these cast parties like
But
into
aside from my STD, I actually really enjoyed the events.
can you maybe share a little bit about we both know that when the season 3 finale was in the can, everyone was looking forward to the event that you were going to throw. And
Yeah.
I don't know if you can tell people about the featured act that was walking that was like it was an act isn't really what it was. It was an experience. But I just it was something really special you did for the Sotneff crew and cast. And I don't know if you want to share that with people or if you want to keep that a family
I don't
secret.
know if I legally can, is the thing.
Did you make us all accomplices?
I don't know if I can legally discuss that.
Okay, well let's move on then. We won't be telling people. I didn't. This is really like reframing a lot of my memories about that, and I'm just
I want you to remember the age that I said I was when I came on to this set.
I remember that now, and yeah. So let's. No, I'm not gonna incriminate anyone, and
No,
I'm just
yeah.
gonna yeah. I did not connect to that. It was just you were so mature back then.
This is why I keep trying to repeat it.
I understand now why Gary was not invited to the season 3.
Uh-huh.
The season 3.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, with the way
Uh-huh.
we sent Gary away. That was
Oh, you getting it? Okay, great.
okay. Yeah, yeah,
Let's move on.
yeah.
Let's next topic.
Yeah. No. Okay.
God
Absolutely.
damn it.
Next topic. Let's talk about how you had a different first mate every season.
Uh, yeah. Um, yeah. They were great. And I also had a different first mate on the show too every season.
uh, Vlad could be a little rough on his first officer.
Yeah, yeah. There was a lot of abuse. There was a lot of abuse from Vlad. And
I
I
feel like he
really,
was so good to the rest of his crew, but I'm wondering like how did you because you were famously friends with everyone who played the first officer, but
oh yeah,
what was that relationship like? Because Vlad got very intense with the first officers, even though he was, I mean, you could never tell that you were friends with them when the cameras were rolling.
yeah. That was something that I think kind of came out of like my love of like Disney,
Hmm.
and the way that villains are always portrayed in Disney to be like super abusive to their underlings.
Hmm.
Like you've got Jafar with Iago, you've got Zeus with his little demons, or not Zeus, Hades with
Hmm.
his little demons. They all have this like this intense need to just kick the shit out of their little underlings.
Yeah.
And so I kind of rolled with that. I'm like, yeah, Vlad is the kind of guy who will literally walk over a puddle by stepping on their back.
Hmm.
And so that's what I wanted to do. And I think it came out really funny. And I think the kids loved it.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's healthy, but yeah. Hi, my girlfriend walked in. Wait.
Well, I mean, the care you had for the actors who were playing your first officer was amazing. I mean, I almost wonder if, like, you know, the way people deal with emotional things on set is modeled off after the way you took care of the other actors, even after you were so cruel to them in character.
Well, I think for me, the part of that was always, I was a theater kid,
Hmm.
and you might know this, that theater kids aren't always treated so well in high school.
Hmm.
Is I don't know if it's every high school or just mine. Maybe it was just mine. I think I'm the only one that ever went through that. And so, when I'm on set and I'm first of all lying about how old I am,
Hmm.
and everyone thinks I'm this older, wiser actor, and really, like, I'm not more than a year, like, older or younger than them, younger in most cases. I was like, you know what? Like, I've got to be the guy who makes sure that everybody feels good. I've got to be
Hmm.
the guy who gives everybody a laugh,
Hmm.
like a really earnest laugh. Like, I wasn't running around being slapstick, but I was always wanting to give somebody a reason to smile, to enjoy their day, and to feel part of something, especially because, coming in later to a series like that, when everybody's already kind of bonded and done their thing,
Yeah.
it's real easy for, like, it to just become like that clique, that group, that cast, and then
Hmm.
everybody else is kind of divided off into whatever. But because they were so accepting of me so very quickly, I was like, I owe it to everybody on that set to repay that kindness tenfold, is the way that I wanted to kind of move through that, working relationship. So that's what I tried to do. That's what I still try to do.
Hmm.
You know,
Well, Logan, we are about out of time for this Fleet stream, and I look forward to doing more of the panels with you and continuing to do more of these interviews. Is there anything you want to say to Fleet fans who are, especially the diehard Vlad contingent? Because I think the Vlad fans are some of the most interesting because they picked up on this amazing character who was just like, you know, he was struggling with the fact that he was no longer alive, but also, had this relationship with a ship, and and being, sort of bonded to that ship the way he was. I think anyone who was into Vlad sort of, there was something special about them.
I am entirely inclined to agree. If I have to say anything, to Vlad fans,
Hmm.
to Satnif fans, to all of you, it's that the love that you guys have shown, the creative genius that you've shown, the passion that you have. I have seen so many amazing things, so many great pieces of artwork, so many great cosplays, and I appreciate the love for me, for my character. I appreciate the love for that you have for anybody on that cast, anybody in those books. I think that Ships of the Northern Fleet would be nothing without all of you. You've all been equally amazing. Continue to have your passion. Continue to do what you're doing. You never know what might come out of it. There's a whole lot to be said for fandoms, fandom communities. It's like they just have this way of just bringing things into existence, and I love seeing every bit of it.
Well, I think that's an amazing sentiment. Before we go, where can people find you if they want to find out more about Logan South post Vlad?
Yeah, you can just look up anything at the Logan South, just everywhere from TikTok to Twitter to YouTube to all of that. You'll find a lot of weird older things that I used to do. You'll find a lot of new weirder things than that I'm doing now. And I hope you enjoy them. I hope you follow me, and I hope that you ask me questions about ships of the Northern Fleet, because I'd love to answer them.
Well, man, it's been great catching up with you again, Logan, and we'll
Oh, thank you, sir. You're fantastic.
we'll see everyone next time.